Not Naked Enough by Philip Yancey. When I moved into the city of Chicago from the suburbs, I was surprised to find the urban atmosphere more sexually charged. Downtown health clubs, billboards, magazine racks, porno shops, and streetwear all revealed, well, more, much more. It seems curious that a culture advancing in sophistication and technology should heighten the emphasis on sexuality, the primal drive that humans share with all animals. But in my travels, I've noticed this consistent pattern. In the Amazon jungle, sex has its place, surely, but it ranks somewhere below a successful hunt or communal feast. In New York or Paris or Tokyo, sex is sine qua non, the prime mover that advertisers rely on to sell fine wine, computers, and dental floss. Whenever a Christian writer turns to the subject of sex, I realize certain defenses go up. Readers expect a moralistic screed against the sex excesses in modern society. I, for one, see little value in such an approach. In the first place, moralizing doesn't stand much chance against the raw power of human sexual drive. More important, I wonder whether the church has used the wrong approach towards sex entirely. Too often the church has treated sexuality as a grave threat, a rival to spirituality. If you're oversexed, why? Repress your sexuality and subliminate that energy into a longing for God. Between the 3rd and 10th centuries, church authorities issued edicts forbidding sex on Saturdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and also during the 40-day fast periods before Easter, Christmas, and Whitsuntide, all for religious reasons. They kept adding feast days and days of the apostles to the prescription, as well as the days of female impurity, until it reached the point that, as historian John Boswell has estimated, only 44 days a year remained available for marital sex. Human nature being what it is, the church's prescriptions were enthusiastically ignored. I question the motive behind such edicts. Can we so neatly substitute one drive towards spiritual union for another towards physical union? I doubt it. After all, in the Garden of Eden, when prelapsarian Adam had perfect spiritual communion with God, even then he felt a loneliness and longing that met no relief until God created Eve. Rather than positioning sexuality and spirituality against each other's rivals, I see them as deeply related. The more that I observe society's obsession with sexuality, the more that I sense in it a thirst for transcendence. My neighbours in their condominiums, high-rises, and even suburbs have little transcendence left in their lives. Very few of them attend church. They figure that science has figured out most of the numerous mysteries of the universe, like disease and weather. Except for the New Ages amongst them, they tend to scoff at superstitious practices like astrology. But sex, there's a mystery to which normal principles of reductionism do apply. Sex is not something you can just figure out. Knowing all about sex, even taking a degree in gynecology, does not diminish its magical powers. Probably the closest thing to a supernatural experience my male neighbours ever have is when they watch Michelle Pfeiffer or Liz Hurley in a creamy dress, or when they pore over each microdot of the annual swimsuit issue of Sports Illustrated. It is any wonder that these swimsuit models are often called goddesses. In this view, sex is not a rival to spirituality, but rather a pointer to it. When a society so completely blocks the human thirst for transcendence, should we be surprised that such longings rewrap themselves into an expression of mere physicality? Maybe the problem is not that people are getting naked, but they're not getting naked enough. We stop at the skin instead of going deeper into the soul. I once talked with a priest, an author, Henry Newen, after he had returned from San Francisco. He had visited various ministries to people with AIDS, and he was moved with compassion by sad stories of sexual promiscuity. They want love so bad, it's literally killing them, he said. More and more, I see sex excess as a modern mutation of classical idolatry, a commitment of spirit to something that cannot bear its weight. When God rebuked the Israelites for their idolatry, he was not condemning the urge to worship, nor did he disapprove of the more immediate urges that pushed them towards idols, a desire for fertility, for good weather, for military success. Rather, he condemned them for seeking those things from senseless hunks of wood and iron instead of himself. What the Old Testament calls idolatry, modern enlightened Westerners call addictions. These two often good things like sex, food, work, chocolate that outgrow their rightful place and begin to control a person's life. To a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, alcohol represents an idol in which he or she invests all hopes and dreams. The idol of alcohol, like the golden calf, cannot bear such commitment. It will always let you down. Tellingly, even our secular society has found, except one, effective way to break the pattern of addiction. The 12-step programs, all of which require submission to a higher power. In their own desperate ways, these strugglers are searching for an elixir that will quench their thirst for transcendence. The French priest Jean Sullivan made this observation about modern society. Human beings are not looking for just anything but for the absolute, even when they believe they are running away from it, or when they unknowingly repress it in a search for material things. Repression of spirituality is every much as dangerous as repression of sexuality. I was thinking some of these thoughts as I read again the account of Jesus' conversation with a Samaritan woman who had been through 5 husbands and was living with yet another man. 2 things struck me. First, I was reminded about Jesus' exquisite tenderness in dealing with people who had failed on some level. In those days, the husband initiated divorce. The Samaritan woman had been unceremoniously dumped by 5 different men. I was also struck by Jesus' skill in connecting thirst, physical, parched throat, thirst, and also the thirst for intimacy, with the thirst for transcendence that only he could resolve. Everybody who drinks this water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks the water that I give him will never be thirsty again, he said. This Samaritan, outcast woman was the first person to whom Jesus had openly revealed himself to be the Messiah. After the conversion started well, the same woman led a wholesale revival in the town. When the deepest thirst was quenched, a thirst she never recognized before Jesus named it, all other thirsts took their rightful place.